What if I told you that your nose already knows something your doctor hasn't told you yet? Not a joke, not a metaphor. Science is now showing us that one of the earliest detectable signs of Alzheimer's disease shows up in your sense of smell, sometimes a full decade before memory loss even begins. And most people brush it off completely. They assume it's just a stuffy nose, seasonal allergies, or simply getting older. But here's what keeps neurologists up at night. By the time someone forgets a familiar face or gets lost on a street they've walked for 30 years, the disease has already been quietly working for 15, sometimes 20 years. The window to act was wide open, and most people didn't even know there was a window. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 physical and mental warning signs that separate normal aging from the early stages of Alzheimer's. Some of them will surprise you. One of them happens every single morning when you get dressed. And at the end, I'm going to share something that gives real hope, a surprisingly common nutritional deficiency that mimics Alzheimer's so closely that even families are fooled, but that can be completely reversed with the right treatment. Stay with me through this entire video because the sign I reveal at number 5 is one that most families misread for years, and understanding it could change everything for someone you love. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is dedicated to giving you clear, science-based health information that actually matters in real life. If you find value in what I share, please hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a video. It genuinely helps us reach more people who need this information. Now let's get into it. Before we talk about the signs, we need to understand what Alzheimer's actually does to the brain, because once you understand the mechanism, the warning signs make complete sense. Think of your brain as an incredibly sophisticated electrical grid, billions of neurons firing signals back and forth, controlling everything from your ability to recognize your daughter's voice to knowing how much force to use when setting a glass down on a table. It is without question the most complex structure in the known universe. Now imagine a sticky, toxic protein called beta amyloid beginning to accumulate between those neurons. Slowly, gradually, almost imperceptibly, it disrupts the electrical signals. It doesn't just target one area, it spreads through multiple regions, the areas that process smell, the areas that control fine motor movement, the areas that calculate spatial distance, the areas that store new memories. This is why Alzheimer's doesn't only steal memories, it steals physical abilities too, and this process begins years, sometimes many years, before anyone notices anything is wrong. That gap between when the damage starts and when the symptoms become obvious, that is your opportunity. That is the time when lifestyle interventions matter most, when early medical evaluation can make a real difference, and when the people around you can start paying closer attention. Let's look at the 7 signs, starting with the one that most people never connect to brain health at all. Sign number 7, the nose that stops working. Let's start with the sign that gives this video its title because it deserves a proper explanation. Your sense of smell is processed in a region called the olfactory bulb, and here is what researchers have discovered. This area is among the very first to be affected by the beta amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. In fact, studies published in scientific journals have found that a measurable decline in the ability to identify common smells can precede cognitive symptoms by 7 to 10 years. This isn't about occasionally struggling to smell a faint scent. This is a progressive, consistent reduction in olfactory ability, not being able to detect coffee brewing in the next room, not noticing that food is spoiled, not recognizing the smell of smoke until it's dangerously close. The important distinction here is that this kind of smell loss is not accompanied by nasal congestion. There's no cold, no allergies, no sinus infection. The nose itself is functioning fine. The problem is in the brain's ability to process the signal. If someone you love has been commenting for months or years that food has no flavor, that they can't smell things the way they used to, or if you've noticed they don't react to strong odors the way they should, please take that seriously. It warrants a conversation with a doctor. Sign number 6, the walk that changes here, is something families often attribute to bad knees, worn out hips, or just the natural slowing that comes with age. And sometimes That's exactly what it is. But there is a specific pattern of walking changes that neurologists associate with early cognitive decline, and it looks different from the shuffle of someone with joint pain. The Alzheimer's-related gait change involves very short, hesitant steps. The feet barely clear the floor. The person looks as though they're walking across ice, afraid of losing balance with every step. There may be a decrease in the natural arm swing that normally balances our stride. What's happening is a disruption in the brain's motor control signals. The cerebellum and the frontal lobes, both of which play roles in coordinating movement, are being affected. The command to lift the foot fully, to stride with confidence, to maintain rhythm, those commands are becoming less reliable. Research has actually shown that cognitive decline and gait decline often progress together, and that measuring walking speed and pattern can serve as a useful, non-invasive indicator of brain health over time. So if you've noticed a parent or grandparent whose walk has changed in this particular way, not just slower, but hesitant, shuffling, cautious in a way that doesn't match their physical health, that observation matters. Write it down. Bring it to their next medical appointment. Sign number 5, the morning struggle, buttons, laces, and keys. This is the one I want you to pay close attention to because it hides in plain sight every single morning. Think about everything your hands do automatically when you get ready for the day. Buttoning a shirt, tying shoelaces, turning a key in a lock, fastening a clasp on a watch or bracelet. These are what neurologists call fine motor tasks. Movements that require precise coordination between your brain and your fingers. For most of your life, these tasks are so automatic that you can do them while thinking about something else entirely. They've been so deeply programmed into your brain that they happen almost without conscious thought. But in the early stages of Alzheimer's, that programming begins to degrade. The brain struggles to execute these familiar motor sequences. Fingers fumble with buttons that never used to be a problem. A person might make several attempts to get a key into a lock. Shoelaces might get abandoned in favor of slip-on shoes, not out of preference, but out of quiet frustration. Family members often think the person is just being impatient, or that their eyesight is getting worse, or that their hands are becoming arthritic, and arthritis is certainly a real possibility worth checking. But if the fine motor struggles are happening without significant joint pain or swelling, if they've developed gradually over months, and if they're combined with any of the other signs on this list, the brain deserves to be investigated, not just the hands. Sign number 4, the spatial miscalculations. This one can be genuinely frightening to witness, and it can also be genuinely dangerous. Alzheimer's affects the brain's ability to process three-dimensional space, to accurately judge distances, depths, and the relationship between objects in the environment. And when this ability starts to fail, the consequences show up in everyday moments. A person reaches to set a glass on the table and releases it a few inches too early. It drops, breaks. They approach a step they've navigated 1,000 times and suddenly misjudge the height, stumbling in a way that has nothing to do with their legs. They reach for a doorknob and their hand misses it slightly on the first attempt. These are not clumsy moments. These are the brain's spatial processing system misfiring. There's also a related phenomenon involving depth perception in visually complex environments, like floors with patterns or transitions between different flooring materials. People in early cognitive decline sometimes freeze or step very carefully over a simple tile pattern because their brain is interpreting the design as an obstacle or a drop. This sign is particularly important to recognize because it dramatically increases fall risk. Falls are one of the leading causes of serious injury and hospitalization in older adults. If spatial miscalculations are happening, the home environment should be evaluated for safety and a physician should be consulted. Sign number 3, the question asked again and again. Now we move into the more recognized cognitive territory, but even this sign has nuances that most people miss. There's a difference between occasionally forgetting something you were told and consistently failing to register new information at all. The first is normal. The second is a red flag. When Alzheimer's affects the hippocampus, the brain's primary memory recording structure, the ability to form new short-term memories begins to break down. Information comes in, but it doesn't get properly encoded and stored. So a few minutes after receiving the information, it's simply gone. Not misplaced, gone. This is why a person will ask what time lunch is, receive a clear answer, and then ask the same question 5 minutes later with complete sincerity. From their perspective, they're asking for the first time. The previous answer left no trace. This pattern of repeated questioning is different from the normal senior moment of forgetting where you put your phone. It's specifically about new information, today's plans, recent conversations, recent events, being repeatedly lost within very short time frames. If you're caring for someone in this situation, understand that becoming frustrated or reminding them that they already asked does not help. Their brain genuinely did not retain the information. Meeting each question with patience and a calm answer is both kinder and more effective. Sign number 2, objects in impossible places. We all misplace things. Everyone has walked into a room and forgotten why. These are not signs of Alzheimer's. They're signs of a busy mind and a life full of distractions. But there is a qualitatively different kind of misplacing that can signal early Alzheimer's, and it has a particular signature. It's not just that the object is lost, it's where it ends up. A television remote found inside the refrigerator, reading glasses in the kitchen cabinet with the canned goods, car keys in the bathroom medicine cabinet. These are not places where you might absent-mindedly set something down. These are locations that have no logical connection to the object whatsoever. What's happening here reflects a breakdown in the brain's ability to organize and categorize. The person is not choosing strange locations. They're losing the mental framework that organizes the world into logical categories. The concept of where this belongs is becoming unclear. And then there's the second layer, which is perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this particular sign. When the object can't be found, the brain, struggling to make sense of a world that increasingly doesn't make sense, will sometimes generate an explanation. The person becomes convinced that someone broke into the house, that a family member stole something, that someone is moving their things on purpose. This is not manipulation or attention-seeking. It is the damaged brain doing its best to construct a story that explains an incomprehensible experience. Understanding this can transform how family members respond, with compassion instead of defensiveness. Sign number 1, lost on a familiar street. This is the sign that tends to break families' hearts most profoundly because it strips away the geography of a person's entire life. Your brain maintains detailed cognitive maps, internal representations of spaces you know well, the route to the grocery store you've taken for 2 decades, the path from the bedroom to the kitchen in the dark, the neighborhood streets you could navigate in your sleep. When Alzheimer's begins to erase these maps, something terrifying happens. A person walks out to do something they've done hundreds of times, and at some point, everything becomes unfamiliar. They're standing on a street corner they've stood on 1,000 times, and they have no idea which direction to go. The map is simply gone. This can happen gradually, with small moments of spatial confusion that seem minor at first. Or it can happen in a way that becomes a genuine emergency. Someone found walking several miles from home, unable to explain where they were going or how to get back. If someone you love has experienced even a mild version of this, confusion in a familiar environment that they then brushed off or laughed about, please take it seriously. Bring it up with a doctor. It is among the most significant early warning signs. Now, before you walk away feeling only fear, I want to give you something genuinely important, something that could change the entire conversation for your family. Not every person showing these signs has Alzheimer's. This sounds obvious, but families are often so frightened that they skip this step emotionally. They see the signs, they assume the worst, and they begin grieving before any diagnosis has been made. Here is the medical reality. There are conditions that can produce cognitive decline, memory loss, balance problems, and even personality changes that are completely, fully reversible with proper treatment. Vitamin B12 deficiency is one of the most significant. B12 is essential for the protective sheath that surrounds your nerve fibers. Without adequate B12, those fibers deteriorate. The symptoms can include memory confusion, difficulty walking, fatigue, and emotional instability. These are symptoms that look from the outside remarkably like Alzheimer's disease. And in older adults, B12 deficiency is genuinely common because the ability to absorb B12 from food decreases with age. The treatment is simple. B12 injections or high-dose supplements can reverse the deficiency. And when the deficiency is the cause, people can recover remarkably. Families who are preparing for the worst have watched their loved ones return to themselves within weeks. Hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid, can also produce significant cognitive symptoms, brain fog, fatigue, and movement changes. Again, treatable. Again, reversible. This is why medical evaluation matters so much when you notice these signs. A simple blood panel can rule out these reversible causes. And if those tests come back normal and a specialist does identify early Alzheimer's pathology, that early identification is itself a powerful thing because the treatments available today are most effective when started early. So what can you do right now today to protect your brain and the brains of the people you love? 3 things that the science consistently supports. First, protect your sleep. During deep sleep, the brain activates its own waste clearance system, a process that literally washes out accumulated proteins, including the beta amyloid associated with Alzheimer's. Chronic sleep deprivation allows that waste to accumulate year after year. Prioritizing sleep quality is not laziness, it is brain maintenance. Second, give your brain genuine novelty. The brain builds new connections when it encounters challenges it hasn't faced before. This is called neuroplasticity, and it remains possible throughout life. Learning a new skill, trying a new route, picking up a new hobby, these aren't trivial activities. They're investments in the structural resilience of your brain. Third, manage your blood sugar seriously. The connection between metabolic health and brain health is so strong that some researchers now refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes. Chronically elevated blood sugar drives inflammation throughout the body, including in the brain, and contributes directly to the kind of neural damage that Alzheimer's exploits. Reducing processed carbohydrates, refined sugars, and ultra-processed foods is one of the most meaningful dietary shifts you can make for long-term brain health. Before I let you go, I want to ask you something directly. Do you know someone, a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, who has been showing any of these signs? Maybe you've noticed the walking change and told yourself it's their joints. Maybe you've seen the repeated questions and felt impatient without understanding why it was happening. Maybe you've been quietly worried and haven't said anything to anyone. You don't have to wait until something serious happens to take action. A conversation with a geriatrician or neurologist costs nothing but time, and it can provide answers, direction, and peace of mind. Early evaluation changes outcomes. That is not something I say to frighten you. It's something I say because it's true, and because you deserve to know it. If this video gave you something valuable, a sign you hadn't known to look for, a name for something you'd been watching happen, a reason to pick up the phone and make an appointment, please do one thing for me. Leave a comment below right now. Tell me which sign surprised you the most, or share whether you've noticed any of these changes in someone you love. Your comment doesn't just help this channel grow, it helps other people who are searching for answers find this video and get the information they need. Every single comment matters more than you know, and if you're not subscribed yet, please do that right now. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. I publish videos on brain health, aging, and practical wellness information, content that is designed to be genuinely useful in your real life. You won't regret being here. Share this video with your family, send it to the group chat, post it where the people who love each other can see it. Because somewhere in your circle, there is someone who needs to hear this, someone who has been brushing off signs that deserve attention, someone whose life could genuinely be changed by getting the right help at the right time. Your brain is extraordinary. Protect it, pay attention to it, and never stop learning how to care for it. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.